Speaker.
Sue Keechley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Green Party joins with all other parties in this House in supporting the Hamilton City Council Parana Park land vesting bill, and also in congratulating, or thanking really, George Parr, 80 years later, for his extraordinary generosity, his far-sightedness in gifting this land to essentially the people of Hamilton. Now, people have been sharing their memories of this area, and although I am a Wellingtonian, I do have strong connections with Hamilton. And I went to the Hamilton West School for a period in my life, had many relatives in Hamilton, and spent most of my holidays in Hamilton. And it was interesting that Hamilton, when I spent my childhood holidays there, had far more green space, far more open space than it does now. Some others have talked about the open space around the lake, for example. And my relatives happen to live near there, and we spent a lot of our childhood playing around in the open space next to Hamilton Lake. Sadly, that is no longer open space. That is now quite densely built housing, suburban housing. And as in so many cities, much of the open space that I remember in my childhood spent in Hamilton is now built in and quite densely built in with suburban housing. And so that is why we should be so deeply grateful to people, visionaries like George Parr, who have actually ensured that there is some land that is not developed, that is not built on, that is not subject to suburban sprawl, that there is some land in places like Hamilton for people to play in. And actually it makes me, I was in Christchurch very recently, and the Hagley Park. I mean, what would Christchurch be without the Hagley Park, without without the visionaries who gave Hagley Park to Christchurch. So it's a shame that Parana Park is not quite as extensive as Hagley Park. However, it is, as others have said, incredibly beautiful. And parks like Parana Park and Hagley Park, they are really, it's not just that they're wonderful places for recreation, but they're the lungs of the city. And in a city, a highly built up and congested city like Hamilton, it is truly important that we have areas of green space which are the lungs of the city, as well as places for people to recreate on. Now, I was just a little concerned that when David Bennett was talking about the Hamilton City Council's plans to develop this park. Now, this hasn't been spelled out exactly what is intended in this development, but we will be interested to learn about this in the Select Committee. However, we are very pleased to, or reassured really, that it is remaining a recreational reserve, that it will come under the Reserves Act, and so therefore we are happy to support it because we are reassured by the opposition spokesperson for education that there will not be parking buildings planned for this park. We certainly hope not. In fact, we think that the park is so beautiful that it really doesn't need development, and probably the best thing that could happen if there was absolutely no development at all. So we're very pleased to support this. It is interesting that this gentleman, George Parr, whom we are all remembering today, and I think it's appropriate that we do 80 years later. I hope that the gentleman was given an honour for doing this, and maybe if he wasn't, we could give him a retrospective honour because his gift is very substantial. But it's interesting that this man was a visionary, not only in giving vesting parks to the people of Hamilton, but also a visionary in understanding the need for public transport, for a train, an advocate for a train from Hamilton right up to Kāwhia. What a visionary, and what a shame that that particular vision of his what did not come into place. And that reminds me of Sir Dovemeyer Robinson, the great visionary of Auckland, who had the vision of light rail or of public transport for Auckland. What a shame that that vision of Sir Dovemeyer Robinson was not implemented, but was opposed by the developers of the time. And here, you know, his plans for a railway from Hamilton to Kāwhia, what a shame. And also for a canal, he had visions for a canal. Hamilton would have been all the richer if we had actually implemented those visions as well.
Rahui Katini.